Hi, I'm Gary Engler, your Socialist Grandfather. This episode of Economic Democracy or No Democracy, an anti oligarchy manifesto, focuses on more questions. The first one today is inspired by the Ayn Randian notion that rich people are essential. Hey, Red, admit it, economic democracy would result in a stagnant economy because there'd be no more incentive to innovate if inventors could no longer get rich. First, inventors almost never get rich. Capitalists who buy inventions do, capitalists who hire inventors do. Second, capitalism is just as often a barrier to innovation as it is an instigator. Our economic system invests in what can be profitable, which is not necessarily the same thing as what satisfies human need. For example, the pharmaceutical industry invests a lot more on drugs that can be marketed and sold in wealthy countries than it does in ones that might save more lives in poor countries. That's the logic of capitalism. And patents often make potential life saving drugs or products unaffordable. If we need economic incentives to promote innovation, society would be much better off to offer prizes and then make the results freely available rather than turn innovation itself into a commodity that can be bought and sold to the highest bidder. So-called intellectual property is just another means of making the wealthy wealthier and the poor poorer. Dear socialist granddad, do you honestly think that ideas, politics, a grand vision of an economic democracy would make one bit of difference? Material forces, including technology, will determine the future, not ideology. Material forces, including technology, are set in motion and constantly influenced by ideas. History proves ideas have consequences, some which are usually justifications for or means of ensuring minority rule, cause death and destruction. For example, fascism, racism, religious dogmatism, nationalism, individualism, misogyny. How much more evidence do we need? Ways of understanding and thinking that motivate people to come together, that counter minority rulers' divide and conquer strategies to enable positive change in the world are good ideas. Ideas that promote more democracy have always preceded more democracy, and that will almost certainly continue to be true. That's pretty basic politics and, frankly, grounds for optimism. Socialist grandfather, why in an economic democracy would people care about the environment and support degrowth policies? Isn't it more likely that they'd want to keep all their stuff and, in fact, want even more, human nature being what it is? Maybe we need a benevolent environmental dictator, not more democracy, to heal the planet. Well, hundreds of billions of advertising dollars are spent every year selling us more stuff. Isn't that pretty conclusive evidence that humans have no innate desire for ever more pretty much identical products? Consumerism is a direct result of capitalist spending to increase their profits. As for whether economic dictatorship or economic democracy is more likely to save our environment, I guess that comes down to asking, is an individual who battles his or her way to absolute power and then creates a system to maintain that power more likely to do the right thing than billions of people coming together to discuss and vote? I'll bet on democracy every day.